On Mother's Day 2020, a Colorado mother went out for a bike ride and vanished without a trace. But as the years passed, every quiet clue seemed to raise more questions than answers, and what eventually unfolded was one of the most puzzling missing person cases in recent memory. What investigators later discovered would reshape this investigation entirely. Suzanne Morphew was a 49-year-old woman living in Chaffee County, Colorado. Friends described her as a devoted mother, a passionate mountain biker, and someone who had faced life's challenges with strength and spirit. She had 2 adult daughters and lived with her husband, Barry Morphew. The family lived in a rural community near Salida, a scenic part of Colorado where Mother's Day might seem like the perfect day for a bike ride. On the 10th of May 2020, Mother's Day, Suzanne told her husband she was going for a bike ride. That was the last time she was seen alive. When she didn't return later that afternoon, concern grew. Her bicycle was eventually found nearby, with no significant damage and no sign of what had happened to her. At first glance, it looked like a tragic, unexplained disappearance. But for those closest to the case, the lack of answers was unsettling, especially when basic belongings and evidence raised more questions than they answered. Search efforts began quickly. Law enforcement, volunteers, friends, and family combed the rugged Colorado terrain. Days went by without a breakthrough, and weeks turned into months. Investigators focused on gathering any clues they could from physical evidence to digital records. Early on, attention turned to Suzanne's husband, Barry, as law enforcement looked for explanations that fit the known facts. After careful review, authorities arrested Barry in May 2021, charging him with first-degree murder and related offenses. He pleaded not guilty. But in April 2022, those charges were dismissed without prejudice just before trial due to procedural issues in the prosecution's case, meaning prosecutors could potentially refile them later. At that point, no body had been found, a major hurdle for any prosecution. Then in September 2023, more than 3 years after Suzanne vanished, investigators uncovered a shocking development. Her skeletal remains were found in a shallow grave near Moffett, Colorado, roughly 40-50 miles south of her home. Forensic teams confirmed that those were Suzanne's remains, and further examination revealed a startling detail. Her bones contained traces of a combination of 3 drugs commonly used as wildlife tranquilizers. These drugs, known collectively as bambuterfanol, azaparone, and metatomidine, were detected during toxicology testing of her bone marrow. Experts pointed out that this mixture is not naturally found in humans, and investigators learned that Barry had previously admitted using such compounds to tranquilize deer on property he managed. There was no clear sign of trauma on the remains. Instead, the evidence suggested a homicide by intoxication after exposure to these sedative drugs. This discovery was a turning point, finally providing a physical anchor to the case that had lacked a corpse for so long. On the 20th of June 2025, a grand jury in Colorado returned a first-degree murder indictment against Barry Morphew in connection with Suzanne's death, and he was arrested in Arizona. Prosecutors argued that only Barry had access to those specific drugs in the area at the time of Suzanne's disappearance. His defense attorney has continued to maintain his client's innocence, and several aspects of the case, including the exact sequence of events, remain contested. As of now, Barry Morphew's murder charge is active, and he has appeared in court in Colorado following his arrest. The case has seen several procedural twists, including earlier dismissed charges and disciplinary moves involving prior prosecution conduct. But the current indictment focuses heavily on the forensic evidence tied to Suzanne's remains and the tranquilizer compound. Barry has continued to assert his innocence, and his attorneys have criticized aspects of the prosecution's approach. At the time of this video, he was awaiting further court proceedings, and the legal outcome has yet to be determined. This case reminds us how long a missing person investigation can take, and how advances in forensic science and dogged persistence can ultimately shed light on cases once thought unsolved. While many questions remain and justice will unfold in court, Suzanne's memory continues to impact her family, friends, and the wider community. If you're moved by this story or have your own thoughts on what this case reveals about missing person investigations and the justice system, feel free to share respectfully in the comments. If you appreciate calm, factual, and respectful true crime storytelling, please subscribe and ring the notification bell. We post reliable updates on cases like this every week.